My guest today is Larry Mazza, former hitman for Gregory Scarpa, who was a former capo for the Colombo family, known as the Grim Reaper. Some said he stopped counting after 50 hits. This is his protege today. Some say he had over 200 hits. There's a lot of stories, speculation, AIDS, KKK, Robert De Niro contacted through his associates to have Larry Mazza help him out as a consultant for the Irishman. We got a lot of things to cover today. Having said that, Larry, thank you so much for being a guest on Valuetainment.
It's
great to have you on.
I'm so happy to be here.
Obviously, I've read a ton, and I've researched a ton on you to see what your background is, and we've interviewed a lot of different people from your world. But for the listeners, the viewers that don't yet know your story, kind of walk us through upbringing, where you're from, and how you got connected to the mob.
Well, my upbringing is very, very normal, very basic. I had my dad was a lieutenant in the fire department in New York. My mom worked in a bank. I went to Catholic school along with my sister and brother. You know, we had was no crime. I didn't have anything but a bright future ahead of me. I played ball. I was a martial artist. Then I went on to coach younger kids, my brother's age and younger. And, you know, I actually wound up going to college eventually, too. And John Jay College, criminal justice.
Yeah, criminal justice is what you were studying. I saw that, yeah.
So I had taken the fire department test. So growing up, I mean, nobody would have ever thought that I would have wound up in the life I wound up in.
If I'm in 10th grade with you, who were you? You said ball, like you played baseball?
I was playing football, baseball, every sport except hockey, except ice hockey.
Were you popular with the girls? Were you the grades? Were you the bodybuilder? Were you the body guy? Who were you?
You know, really a little of everything.
Okay.
We worked out every day. Like I said, I was in a karate school with a champion kickboxer named Lou Neglia. Most people know who that is. I moved on to other places after him and continued my whole life with it. I did lift weights. I played football. I played basketball. Like I said, we did go to the weight gym every night. Eventually, I became a trainer, a personal trainer, and I still do that to this day.
Personal training till today.
Yeah.
So you're doing all of that. You know, you're going to school, college, trying to be a lawyer. Is that kind of the direction where you want to be more?
I was taking police science, fire science. My father always said to me, whatever I do, because I was the smartest one, he said, out of my sister and brother. They both became successes in the real world, and I was heading towards success in that life until, it all caved in on us. But he said I could have been a chief, fire chief. I said I would have moved right up the ladder, because I grasped things without even studying hard. I didn't have to hit the books for hours and hours and hours. I would go to school, take notes, and ace my tests, you know. So I definitely had a bright future, you know, and I was working. I worked through high school, I worked through college, and that's sort of what led me into this other life that I wound up in later on.
And the life happens through you meeting Linda first. Is that kind of how they?
Yes.
So what happens? How do you meet Linda? Who is Linda, and where does it go from there?
Linda, at first to me, was just a very beautiful older woman.
Okay.
And I say that because she was a little over 30, maybe 31, and I was only 17 going on 18, so I was a kid. And I was working at a supermarket. I was about to graduate high school and go on to John Jay. So on my route, I would deliver groceries to her house. And then she'd come into the supermarket. Little by little, she got more and more friendly with me. And ultimately, on one of the deliveries to her house, she really opened up to me. She sat me down. She offered me a drink, which I didn't have. I had iced tea or something, but I wanted, vodka or something. I said, no, I'm still working. Naive kid, A few years later, I said, oh yeah, bring me the drink, But I knew I had to get back to work. And ultimately, she asked me straight out if I fool around. And being so young and naive, my answer to her was, I'll never forget it, because she busted out laughing, and she wound up telling her husband not to fast forward later on about this. So I don't know if she's married at this time. I says, of course I fool around. Do I look gay to you? I says, I'm...
You told her that?
Yeah, yeah. But again, you know, I was a naive kid, didn't know any better. So she laughed.
Now, this is somebody you're attracted to. This is somebody that...
yeah, no. I mean, she's a beautiful, beautiful lady.
Nothing's happened yet.
Nothing's happened yet, no. This was the first break. And then she says, well, she wanted my number, and I gave it to her. And she had used if I ever need to call you at the store to bring something over for me, would you do it? I said, of course. Yeah, I deliver here anyway, you know. Funny thing is, the next night, she wants me to come over to the house. And I got to go to school, and I got kickboxing, and I got the gym, and I'm trying to tell her, no, I can't make it.
You're a senior in high school.
Yes. So I'll never forget, I'm in Bath Beach bodybuilding on Avenue, okay? And I get a phone call. She tracked me down to there because she knew where I worked out. And I get a phone call, Larry Mazza, you come to the front desk, you have a phone call. I'm saying, who the hell's calling me at the gym? I go up there, it's her. And she wants me to come over after the gym. I'm still trying to fight it. I says, I got to go home and shower. I got homework to do. Long story short, I go home, I take a shower. I ask my father for the car keys, that young. He gives me the keys, and I go to her house. And that night is where the romance started. Okay, she had a bottle of wine out. I remember there was a joint in the ashtray, which I had never even seen a joint.
What year is this? This is
78.
Got it.
78. I never even saw a joint.
Till 78.
Till that one.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was born in 61.
17, yeah.
Yeah. So I told her the wine was good. I had a little wine with her, and there was little snacks. The famous M&Ms. I talk about that. Everybody laughs about it, but I remember that's what was on the table. And it was a phenomenal night. You know, the chemistry, if you think about it, for a young kid like that with a woman that knows the ropes already, it's just phenomenal. So that went on.
She's like your professor at that time, educating you on moves and the tricks of the game.
Yeah. Somebody compared it to a movie called The Graduate, if you know that movie from years ago.
Course. Yeah. That's mandatory for,
It was similar. And, you know, at first we went on for weeks and weeks. I never even cared. I had to assume inside she was married, you know. Eventually she might have mentioned the kids, something early on that I saw, okay, she's married. But I never really pursued that. I thought that was on her. Maybe he's traveling, maybe he's a salesman, maybe whatever. I'm just, you know, I really didn't care. It's not nice to say that, but, you know, as a young kid like that, it was
When that happened, are you telling that to anybody or no? Like, are you coming back telling your friends, guys, you won't believe what happened yesterday?
No, but my partner, Jimmy, who worked with me, he's right through the whole book with me till the end, the jail time, everything, the war. He was working with me at Danzas. So he knew, but it was unspoken, okay, when we found out who he was.
Which Jim? Is this Jimmy?
Jimmy, my partner Jimmy from the book, Jimmy Delmasto.
Got it.
Yeah.
So he knows what's going on the entire time.
He knows. He's the only one. Others started speculating, some of my close friends, but once later on, you fast forward, they knew who he was, everybody just shut up. Nobody would even discuss it. But, you know, like Jimmy knew. He saw me with her in the store together. He knew I would, when it was delivery to our house, I said, I got this one, you know, things like that. And he knew, but like I said, it's unspoken. So now it turns into months, and we're getting really closer. We're getting closer. I'm not going to say we're madly in love, but it's turning into a real feelings. And she starts opening up to me about it. She has a husband. So I says, yeah, well, I figured that, but, you know.
They didn't live together in that house, I'm assuming.
I never saw him there at the beginning.
Got it.
Okay, like I said, it was about 6 months where we were just living like it was just us two. I knew what nights I could come. Now, later on, I'm telling you how I felt at the time.
Yeah.
Later on, as you start looking back at certain things, those times I thought I heard a crack in the house or I thought I heard something. She said, oh, no, it's an old house. You know, it's whatever, the house is still settling. That's not true. You know, maybe he was there. Maybe he was downstairs. There was a basement apartment later on that I knew he would go into a lot, okay? But while we're talking about this, so people can understand, he already had another wife that I found out about later on, and I'll get to that. So this goes on for about 6 months. And now she wants me to drop everything. I can't go with other girls. You don't need school anymore. You're going to be this. We have a business we're opening up. Her husband and her. She's going to be the name on it. They want me to be the regional sales manager, so she wants me to meet him. And she starts telling me he's an influential guy. He can take you to a lot of good places. He knows a lot of people. I still don't get it. I'm figuring, oh, maybe he's a big doctor or something, you know, that knows a lot of people. So after a few more months goes by, still the same thing. I'm eventually, to cut to the chase, I says, okay, I'll meet him. I fought it for months. I said, I can't meet your husband. This is not right. I said, not well. Now I know it's wrong. I mean, now you're bringing me to a whole different situation. So finally, one night, we go to an Italian restaurant. Okay, well, before, let me tell you what happens. I get to the house about 5 o'clock, and I know I'm going to meet him this night, okay? And I still don't know what he is. So I'm standing at the front door, and I did have a vodka. I'll never forget that. I said, I'll have a vodka, because I wanted to calm down a little. I'm going to meet the husband of a woman I was sleeping with for almost a year. And I'm looking out the window. I see a big black Fleetwood Brougham pull up. Big caddy, spoke wheels, dark windows, pulls in. And I'm watching. I want to see what he looks like, get that first impression. He gets out of the car. Dark sunglasses. It's dark out at night. He's still got dark sunglasses on. Sport jacket, dressed like, he once told me John Gotti learned how to dress from me, okay, later on. Dressed just like that, I mean sharp. And I won't say he walked to the door, because it was more of a swagger. He had a presence in his walk that as he was coming to the door, it registered. I says, this is not, because I had an Uncle Albert who was around guys like this. And I said, this is no doctor or salesman. I said, you know, and later on I had said, if you look in the dictionary, under mobster, there's a picture of him. Mm-hmm. Model, what's that other word? Just a perfect example of a gangster. So he comes up the steps. I open the door, and I put my hand out. I says, I'm Larry. He says, I'm Greg. So we shake hands. He smiles, very nice, happy to meet me. But all along, I thought his name was Charles. That's the first time I learned his name was Greg.
She told you it's Charles?
She told me he was Charles.
Got it.
Okay, Charles Shearer. There's a whole story behind that. And I you know, it's not even my place to get into it, but with an ex-husband or an ex-boyfriend, but he was Charles Shearer to me up until that minute. So he goes in, he's gonna freshen up, change a little bit, whatever. He goes in, I go to Linda. I said, Linda, I thought his name was Greg. He said he's Charlie. Charlie, I thought, you know, she says, oh no, he just uses that name, Charlie. I says, people just use other names? It's like, she said it like it's normal.
You still don't know what he does?
No, no, but like I says, that strut to the house, I says, this is a man's man. I mean, it's a guy got to, you know. So he comes back in, and he has 2 scotches. Now I had vodka. Even then I didn't want to mix. But I didn't say no. I took a scotch and we sipped it together. We talked a little bit. He started telling me about the company. We're going to meet these 2 guys. One's a lawyer, one's an accountant. They were all on the board of this company. Very real. And it turned out to be real. So anyway, that night I meet him and we go to the restaurant. So she walked into the car. She goes to grab my arm. And I had to move away from her like
what are you doing?
Yeah, he was in front of us, letting us walk behind him.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get to the restaurant and I meet the 2 fellas, and he doesn't recommend, he doesn't say, I want to propose Larry to be the sales manager. He tells them both, Larry's going to be our sales manager. So I said, okay. I didn't even a resume or anything.
You've never sold? You're not a sales guy?
No,
okay.
no.
Well, you are now.
Yeah, yeah. So.
And you got a promotion, you're sales manager is what you are.
I was sales manager right off the bat. So anyway, after this night, I start working for him. And he tells me I have to come to the office every day, which turns out to be a social club. So I start meeting other guys, and I'll get more into that. But before all this happens, you know, I'm going out to different avenues. They give me a list of addresses to go to where I can service their fire extinguisher and then try to sell them paper products. And the addresses they gave me were all hot. I was going to get them. I walked in. They were expecting me. I got the account. So I built a little portfolio right off the bat. If they didn't say yes, or I went to a place cold, they told me, you can go into other stores in the same area, but start with this one. It's a yes. And they would tell me no, I go back to the club, and I'd say, well, these 4 guys weren't interested. And Greg says, all right, Carmine. Goes Carmine in. Carmine gets the addresses. Go back there the next day. Go back again tomorrow. I go back the next day. They treat me like, I don't want to say Al Capone, like a senator, a neighborhood politician.
Are you speculating at this time, like what's going on? Or?
Of course, no. Now I see the club. I know he's.
You know he's connected at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I know he's what he is.
Was
now.
Greg a known face and a name that you?
No.
He's a low-key guy.
He's low-key.
Is he a capo at that time or not yet?
No, he never. I'm going to tell you, he never became a capo till the very end.
Got it. Okay.
They bypassed him for his son. Something I thought they asked him about.
Junior.
Okay, and Greg Jr. told me, no, they bypassed my father. And this discussion came because of what came out years later. And I don't want to tip my mitt yet. Let's get to that.
Sure.
So, So now I got this position. I see the influence. I'm getting these accounts. And this goes on for a few months. But while it's going on, he's helping me. He's building me up. He's telling these other guys about me, that I'm his nephew. And we treat him, it's off the charts. So I start feeling very, very guilty. And I'm starting to tell Linda, we have to stop. We can't do this. This isn't right. I mean, I can't go on like this. She's persuasive, talks me out of it. We wind up making love, and I'm back again. And it's just not like, again, that I wanted to get away, but I just knew it wasn't right. So finally, she starts telling me she wants to let him know about us. Okay, and of course I fight that. I says, no, I mean, he's not, please, you want to get me killed? I mean, I know it. And she laughs. He would never do that. He loves you. Anything I love, he loves. Giving me little hints that possibly he knows. And at that point, I have no idea, okay? And I still don't know the real exact truth, okay? So we continue for a few more months. Now he sees me getting erratic. I don't show up where I'm supposed to show up because I think he's going to kill me, okay? Because now I started seeing little things. Guys get thrown out, kicked out, maybe cracked around. Not major violence, but in the club, the office, I may see one of the Shylocks who's hanging around, grabbing a guy by the throat. So I know it's not a nice...
Nobody's gotten killed yet, though? No one's gotten shot, or you haven't seen anything like that?
No, nothing like that yet. But like I said, I have an Uncle Albert who's a dinosaur with the Colombo family. He went back all the way to Junior Persico's rise. As a matter of fact, there's a scene in a movie, well, The Godfather, where the guy's getting choked at the bar. Junior Persico was doing the choking. My Uncle Albert was in the crash car outside. So
in real life.
In real life,
what happened,
yeah. So he was tight with Junior from way, way back. So I knew there was deaths and guys get killed, Brooklyn, especially back then, you'd see a body every couple of weeks somewhere. It wasn't odd. And I didn't want to be one of those bodies. I started getting paranoid.
So what year is this? Is this 80 already or not yet?
Not quite.
79-ish.
79, pushing 80, yeah.
Okay.
It's about 18 months after we met.
So you're 18 and a half, 19 at this point.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, exactly. And so now what happens is, like I said, he starts seeing it. So he starts saying things to me little by little. I don't like what I see. Is something wrong? You got to talk to me. And I keep letting it go. Finally, there's one specific instance where I didn't show up, and he was going to hit somebody that night, or he wound up hitting him. All I had to do was drive him downtown. Just drop me off. And I didn't show up, okay? And I found out later on, a friend, Bucky, was killed that night. Okay, he was going to have me drop him off there. And if you follow the MO as years go by, they give you little tiny things to do, ultimately to bring you to a certain level where you're asked to do more. So that little bit of a thing was his first step. Maybe he'll hear about it, maybe he won't. Very psychological. And when you bring a kid in, okay, and it's usually an influential male that you're following that brings you in. I got brought in by an influential woman also. So
like Scarpa brought in Leonetti, and Leonetti was also young, and he was gradually getting him through. But Scarpa was he was also a brutal guy, but not 200 hits like Scarpa was. Scarpa stopped counting after 50.
He told me that. He stopped counting at 50. And then I heard later on you know, higher numbers. Then when I was away with him and Gas Pipe on MCC, they were talking about numbers between the two of them. They said we got over 200 between the two of us. That's where the 200 came from.
Is this organizing or is this leading? There's a big difference, the two, right?
What do you mean?
So you say
no, they're not all authorized.
You're for yourself 25 as you were involved in. Right? That's the number that I read about you, right?
Yes.
What was Scarpa's number?
He was a shooter. Okay, he never asked anybody else to do the shooting unless it was for a reason, to make their bones, to get them settled in and understand they're capable. He never asked me to go anywhere alone, never asked me to do this, never asked me to, even on the beatings. Well, beatings a lot of time it was Greg Jr. would be. He took that as a badge of honor, that he didn't relegate it or say, you go do it. He says, he'd get out of the chair, say, let's go. You know, and we'd go with him. And again, this is later on, which I'll get to. So, no, but he was a shooter on the scene. I've heard about some hits that aren't even that public, you know, that, you know, I can talk about it now, everybody's gone. I wouldn't hate to cause trouble for somebody, that's why I say that. Even though I made a deal with the government, I'm not looking to start trouble for people. It was never that way. But, so anyway, going back to this night, that was a pivotal night. He knew something was wrong with me. So she started telling me again, we're going to tell him, and I made a comment back then. I said, get me a bulletproof vest first, please, because you can't tell him. I mean, you know, now he's got to kill me.
You being sarcastic or serious?
I was half serious, half sarcastic.
Yeah.
You know, I just, so finally one day I get to the house. Well, what happens is the supply company has a big problem at the factory. It burns down. Okay, to this day, I don't know if it was done on purpose.
Yeah.
You know, in hindsight, probably a big insurance check. It's the MO. Nobody really wants legitimate
Very
businesses.
common strategy.
Right. So now I'm in no man's land. Okay, I left college for this. The fire department test that I was very high on, I got a 99 on the written and a 95 on the physical. Now, the 99 on the written, I should have got 100. It wasn't a very difficult test. I started saying, nah, they're trying to trick me. And you want to know what one of the questions was? Okay. You're walking past a gas station. You notice the pump is leaking. You, A, stop and light up a cigarette. B, ignore it. It's none of your business. C, call the fire department. D, all of the above. Obviously, it's C. So most of the questions were like that, and I was laughing my way through it. The physical, on the other hand, guys were throwing up at the end. It was very difficult. So a 95, I'm proud of. Anyway, I'm high on the list, but what happens is that test, back in the day, now this is back in, 81, 80. I took the test in 80, probably 79. But as soon as I was 18, I took the test. And it gets thrown out because minorities had a problem with it and women with the physical. So a judge in the federal courts takes 2 years to rule on it. Then he rules on it and sets another test for 2 more years. So 4 years is going to go by before I can take the test again. In that time, she knows I'm in no man's land. She tells Greg, or asks him in front of me, we got to find something for Larry. So I'll never forget, the first thing out of his mouth was, well, we could get him in the numbers. The number business is the lowest form of racket there is. Nobody gets hurt. There's no credit. The biggest problem there is tax evasion if you have a big number business, okay? So I get in it with them, and they give me a few ideas of how to build up numbers. They give me a few spots that are already working. When I say them, it's Greg and Greg Jr., because they're partners.
Got it.
I start improvising on my own. I start going to, and I'm already good with numbers. I was always good with numbers. I go to the local OTBs. I know there's all gamblers in there. I go to the bowling alleys because they're all bowling for money. And I'm picking up numbers and they're all giving them to me. Now I start, at the OTBs, I start taking horse action. OTB is off-track betting. I don't know if you remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes way back. And it failed in New York, and I couldn't understand how, later on in life, how do you lose in a gambling proposition? Anyway, so I start now picking up horses. So now I'm bringing horses in, and I still don't have enough. I get the football tickets, okay, the parlay cards. Again, lowest form of racket you could do. But now I'm making $500, $800 a week. Back in 80.
80.
All cash.
Yep.
And I don't even have to tell my parents I'm not the manager anymore. So I'm still making a living, and they're not asking any questions.
And you're living with your parents
I
still.
live in a basement apartment.
Got it.
Yeah. And, you know, so now there's really nothing looks out of ordinary other than my first caddy. When I pulled in with the first caddy, I said, no, it comes with the company, you know. And I said along the way.
With the company.
I said along the way, and I don't mean it in a bad way, because I don't consider myself a liar by no means. I try to be honest and ethical, whatever the word is. I got a lot of people that'll attest to that. But certain situations, you become a good liar. Like that with your parents, your wife, your girlfriend. You have to. So you wind up saying things that aren't true and just living with it and going on, you know. So anyway, I start bringing the football tickets out. Now, I'm giving them to my friends to also give out and also take numbers. They're all in different OTBs. So we're building a little mini thing where now I'm bringing in thousands, a few thousand, 2,000, 3,000 in numbers and horses and sports. The next level is now booking sports. Okay, now this all took a little bit of time. So, but this was how he opened the door for me. I'll never forget his words. Well, we could get him in the numbers. He's telling Linda that to appease her, and he gets me in the numbers, and I thrived with all of that stuff. So now, this one day, he's bringing me to the club. Okay, we're in the car, and he starts telling me, Larry, you know I love you like a son. Okay, you're very mature for your age, and I'm going to have this conversation with you because I know you can handle it. I know where he's going. I know where he's going, and I feel the butterflies.
Linda's not in the car, just you and him.
No, just me and him going to the club like every day. We get there at 12:30. The rest of the guys come at 1. It's just because he would be there already. And sometimes one other guy was there, Bobby, but he wasn't there this day. So we're driving there, and I'm just being quiet. I'm actually like looking out the window, wondering, what do I do now? I said, this is it. You know, he's going to take me to the club, and I think I'm going to get killed. So he's just talking about it. Doesn't say he's going on how Linda cares about you, and we're not that far from the club to the house. You know, if there's no traffic, it's less than 10 minutes, you know. So we get to the club now, and we walk in. Just like this, we're sitting, like me and you. He goes behind the desk. He's got his big seat, and I got a chair just like this, and I sit down, and he's telling me, he says, I want you to know I know about you and Linda. So I had a choice right there. Okay, I could have got up and run, you know, which I didn't do. But I said to myself, I'll never forget, it's my moment of truth. I said, this, you know, I still care for her. I don't want it to be over. And I looked at him, I said, these are my exact words, okay? I says, Greg, you're far from an idiot. And I have a lot of respect for you. You're far from an idiot. Only an idiot wouldn't see this. He hit the desk, he starts laughing. He gets up, I'm still a little nervous. We walk out together, he puts his arm around me. Okay, we walk out in front of the club, it's just us two, outside. This is a ritual for us. He got himself set up, he put his paperwork away, you know. We go outside, and we're leaning on the parking meter, okay? That's something we did. You know, we taking the sun, and he goes on to tell me he's okay with this. He goes, but the only thing is, only the 3 of us could ever know about it. He says, if anybody else finds out, you and I will be killed.
Why you and I?
Well, because he's breaking a rule too. He's breaking a rule by allowing it. Okay? And at that point, I understood. He's
a made man at that time.
He's a made guy.
You're not yet.
No. He's a made guy all the way.
Is he an earner, or is he a racketeer, or is he more the
He's both. He's both, and he's been described by that by others, including like Sammy the Bull. When he talked about our club, he says, that 13th Avenue club, we're racketeers and killers. And it's lethal, obviously, but it's a combination, the consummate, that's the word I was looking for before. The ones that everybody looks up to and fears and respects. Yeah. You know, and we weren't the only ones, I'm not saying that by no stretch,
I get
but
it.
we were in that category. Everybody in there, if you're under Greg, okay, if he calls you with him, you're with me. Okay, and he introduces you to others, even if it's a friend of mine at the beginning, you get the same respect as anybody does, and you're expected to produce, not only earn, but carry yourself like a good fella, even if you're not yet, and eventually you're going to be hurting people and killing people. It's just the way it is. If you're in that club, in a circle, it's going to happen, and it happened to me, and we'll get there as we go. So now I'm Ernie with him, I feel the weight of the world off my shoulders. You know, because we're able to go on, and we go on.
Are three of you ever talking about it openly when you're around each other, or no?
Yeah.
So, and let me ask you a couple questions here. So, one, when I look at his background, he was married to Connie, and they separated, and he had been with Linda for 30 years, and Connie, he had 3 kids. Junior is one of them. And with Linda, they had 2 kids, but I don't think they ever officially got married with Linda, right?
That's true.
Okay,
That's
so
true.
they were not, it was...
I didn't know that back then. Later on, I found out it was just common law. But he never officially divorced Connie.
Never did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those nights he was somewhere, but there's a third wife in there. You knew that?
Of course.
Lily.
Yes.
Okay, the Middle Eastern beauty queen. Yeah.
Yes.
So a lot of times, not a lot of times, but several times, I took him to the airport, and she was in Vegas. So he'd be gone for a day or 2. Other times he'd be picked up in a limo and taken to Manhattan, and I wouldn't see him for a day or 2. So he was juggling to some point. He spent every full weekend in Lakewood, you know, with Connie.
Sure.
So, you know, there's 4 or 5 nights a week I was free to, you know, but there was also later on nights where I said I knew he came home and went in the basement because I was there already, and we would actually meet for coffee.
With the 3 of you?
Yeah.
But never the 3 of you at this, you know, there was nothing where, you know, 3 of you, other girls getting involved. That never happened.
No.
Okay.
And that came
that
up,
changes the game
listen,
if you guys went that far.
Somewhere once for a very short time, and I shrugged it off as somebody either writing a book or trying to make right of something that was wrong, but I don't see how that makes it any better. I mean, you know, to each his own. But
No.
Really,
I'm thinking if you guys brought another person in to support the cast.
No.
Okay. So the reason why I asked, I'm trying to get the dynamics here with this story because swingers, you know, you get the swingers. I remember one time I had a client of mine. I was doing business with them, and I sold them 2 insurance policies and rolled over their 401k. At the end, the guy says, "What are you doing Friday night?"
Yeah.
And I said, "You know, I got no plans. You want to come over?" I said, "What do you have in mind?" "My wife likes you." I said, "You know, I like you guys too. You guys are good clients." He says, "No, she likes you, and we'd like to watch. I'd like to watch."
No.
I said, "Okay." Was that then? Were they swingers type of thing?
I never saw that. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think it was one of those. I'm going to say this, maybe just a special moment in time where I think I helped him because he was juggling. He wasn't her age. Don't forget, he's 20 years
20 years older. Yeah.
He's in his
20,
50s.
That's right.
You know.
Did Linda know about Connie?
Yes,
of course she did.
yes.
Did Connie know about Linda?
No, and if you want, and we'll fast forward again.
Wow.
Towards the very end, when it all came out, and Greg was in the hospital and close to death, Connie got on the phone with me because she knew I was his closest guy. Okay, he said it to everybody. At that point in time, I was the closest guy he ever had in this life, which was incredible. You know, and we were. I mean, we went through the war, which we're going to get to.
You're the only one that cried, right? That he told you a story about him.
When he got contracted the AIDS virus, I cried.
Yeah.
It was like a father. My father I would have cried too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and he said that himself. He says it was incredible. He was touching to him. But this is how we had gotten. You know, so I think I was helping him in a way.
In what way? Define that.
Well, that.
Keep her busy.
4 nights a week he's not there. She's got to be wondering where. She's a young girl. So, almost guilt. Now they're almost on even playing field. And again, this is all my opinion because it's never come out. It's never come out from him or her or anybody that they knew all along. And I saw little things that make me wonder if they knew. And maybe he did get turned on by it. I don't know. Or maybe not turned on by it. Maybe it satisfied him that a younger guy wanted his trophy so bad.
Yeah, when I hear stories like this, they're very random and weird, right? Because, you know, when you're listening to, okay, you know, the Graduate, Dustin Hoffman, you're like, oh, you know, like young boys, you know, like dreams, like, oh my gosh, that teacher. It'd be, everybody has that one teacher, like, oh my gosh, you know, what if one day I stay after school, you know.
You know what my father said? I don't mean to interrupt you. But he said, based on sort of what you're saying, he says, he doesn't know if he could have turned that down. My father's just a legitimate lieutenant, great father, great man, never, you know, a criminal. And he said, you know, so just on my behalf, he said that.
And for the audience to kind of get some of the optics, Linda was more like Michelle Pfeiffer from Scarface. Was she like is she that
without
personality?
Without the drugs.
But like extremely attractive, seductive, and Seen it. Okay.
Yeah. And,
so
and love the life, love the money. Not that there's anything where everybody likes money. I hate when I hear that. But so, you know, but she really, that was all provocative to her.
Two other questions on this part here. One of them is, so it wasn't that, this is pre the 30 of his associates coming and getting tested to see whose blood matched to give it to him for the infusion. At this time, when this is happening, he doesn't have AIDS yet. So this is pre him getting gay. So it's not like they're not having sex because he doesn't want her to get AIDS.
Right. No.
And it's also not the fact that, you know, in bodybuilding, there was a guy back in the days, big time bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia guy. When he got off of everything, he couldn't get it up anymore.
Really?
If he took 5 Viagra's, he couldn't do nothing. So there's nothing that even you could make a miracle happen. This was not his challenge either. It wasn't like, listen, I can't get it up. So
well, I'll tell you this much.
I'm just trying to address every situation.
And the reason I know that to some extent is there was a fourth woman that used to come to the club, okay, and spend a little time in the office with him. And when he would come out, I mean, you could tell. He'd give me the wink. You know, Bobby would say something. Bobby was always joking around. You know, he'd make a comment, something about the pipes getting cleaned. You know, he would just joke all the time.
She goes in with her hair fixed up. She comes back with a band.
And then later on, I heard from a relative of Greg's. I'll just leave it at that. Maybe she doesn't want a name out right now, so it's a girl. That he had another kid with somebody right on 13th Avenue, and it might have been this woman. For all we know, that used to come in. She was attractive too, but older, a little bit older, more his age.
So he was fairly active. I mean, he had a very high testosterone level.
I don't think that was the problem. But like I said, I mean, at 52 or whatever he was, you know,
you're still good.
One is but one is good. You know, if you have two, all right. But four, you know, that's it's.
So there's a form of
there's. But the thing here, hey, and you got to watch this too. Now, I became close with the kids. I became Joey. The son may rest in Linda's kids. Okay. Well, I got close with all the kids, but that family, I became godfather to Joey, Linda and Greg's son, and there was a reason for that. Other than it, to us, it was always an important person in your life.
It's a little
godfather,
weird,
godmother. I'm sorry.
It's a little weird. You know, you didn't think it was a little weird?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I was actually honored that and in her eyes, maybe I was never going to have a kid of my own. I was going to be with her forever, But I used to always tell her, I wanted a son. I want to have a kid. I want to get married someday. And she didn't want to hear that,
Did she love both of you guys equally, or was it more like, he takes care of me, but I love you?
If I answer that, it's
unfair.
It's unfair. I don't think she didn't love Greg. I'll say that. I think is lust the word? More lust between us, maybe, because of the dynamics and the physical at the ages and stuff. But I'm certain she loved him. I'm certain he loved her, or cared for her, or whatever the word is, because and as years went on and when all the things went wrong in our life and I started looking back, I honestly don't know if he loved anything or anybody, Like Greg Jr., I could see the love with his kids. I could see how he treats other people.
Did he come out already, or he's
out? He's out. I've been talking to him. We got together a few times.
How is your personalities, the two of you guys, relationship
well,
together?
very similar. I like to think I'm easygoing. He is. He likes to laugh. His father liked to laugh too. He's easy to talk to, and he's caring. He's caring. Here's the perfect example. I had to borrow money from Greg Sr. probably 200 times as a kid, Not once did I not pay Vig.
Really?
Yes, not once. Even during the war, we had to pay Vig. We had no breaks, nothing. Okay. Greg Jr., on the other hand, I might have borrowed money from him 3 times. Didn't charge me a penny.
Get out of here.
He says, "You're my brother. What's the matter with you?" And I'm saying to myself, what? I said, so you fell a little further from the tree than people thought.
When did Greg know about you and Linda?
Greg Jr.?
Yeah.
Oh, not until the arrests. We all got arrested.
Yeah.
And I exploded that out there because I had so much resent for his father.
Scarpa.
Yeah, because ultimately he was, a 30-year informant, which we'll get to, I'm sure. And I was fighting my case. Okay, later on. I had no intentions of, I was going to make a deal, figure something out, 20 years, 18 years. We're fighting it, but one by one, the consigliere flips. That's Carmine Sessa, who I was fighting for. other guys, good fellas and captains. Finally, it comes out that Greg Sr., my mentor, the guy that brought me into this, that everything, is a government informer for 30 years, okay? And while I'm on the floor with the real boss, Junior Persico's son, Alley Boy, he tells me him and his father knew about Greg for 20 years.
Get out of here.
You know what? When he told me that, see the reaction you just had? That must have came on my face because he turned white after he said it. And he just knew he made a mistake. Terrible thing to tell me that you guys knew. Whether he meant they surmised or they knew doesn't even matter. Because people say, well, maybe they thought. I've seen guys get killed for a lot worse. So if you really thought it, that's enough to kill him. In that life, I hate to say it. Okay? I watched Greg shoot a guy that called him a rat. But tried to renege on it at the desk like we are now. I got up out of my chair when this guy came in. He sat down. Donnie, his name was. And Greg took care of his business. He took his money from the guy, wrote his name down, crossed him off the list like he paid. And he says, Donnie, what's this I hear? I'm a rat. Donnie turned white. He started sweating. He knew he was in trouble. I was standing in the room with Greg Jr., Carmine, Bobby, and one other person. Greg Jr., Carmine, Bobby. Oh, and me. 4 of us were in there. There were 4 guys in the room. But I was sitting at the chair as always. I got up to let him sit down, and I would stand right by the door, until he left. I'd go back and sit with Greg. As soon as the guy said he didn't have paperwork, he was just talking drunk with another guy. I don't mean that. You know better, Greg, blah, blah, blah. You don't have no paperwork. You can't prove that. He says, no, of course not. Reached in his desk, the drawer right there, popped him right across the table.
Killed him.
Yep. That was the first time I actually saw somebody get rolled up in a rug and carried out, literally. And the funny thing is I had to go with Bobby to pick out a new carpet to put down. And the color he picked, he's colorblind, Bobby. We didn't know that. He brings an orange carpet back. The last carpet was dark brown. Anyway, just something you never forget.
At least he didn't get white.
Yeah. So I remember that was like a joke for a while, but, so...
So 30 years he's doing that. Persico and them know for 20 years.
Yeah.
When this became public, I'm curious to know what the reaction was from even Persico when they found out.
Okay, well, I'm in prison at the time.
10 years.
Fighting my case. Well, I'm fighting my case.
Okay.
This is early on. This is pre-anything.
Got it.
And they bounce you around. I'm on a floor with Vic Arena, the #1 target.
Get out of here.
And I'm saying they had separate.
He just got out.
Oh, did Vic get out?
Arena?
No, he didn't. He's got a hearing October 13th to see if he can get out. Somebody else did get out.
No, but keep going. I'm listening to you.
I don't think it's Vic Arena. So anyway,
I'll take right now.
And I'm on separation from everybody. I can't be with anybody from the other side. I can't be with my partner, Jimmy. I can't be, well, that was later on when he came in. He was still on the lam. Anyway, they put me on the floor.
Could be released.
Yes.
Could be released from prison.
Yeah, because I talked to his lawyer.
Yeah, could be released from prison.
I talked to his lawyer occasionally.
Go ahead.
So I'm on the floor with Vic, and he calls me over, and we're getting along. We know we're fighting the case, and there's no reason to feud in there. We're trying to help each other out. He calls me. I go walking with him. I'm walking to the men's room. When you go to the men's room with a guy, they want to talk privately. There's 2 other guys in there. Mikey D, a friend of mine. I don't want to use his last name. And another one, I could use his name if I could think of it. He was the consigliere Lastarino for the Lucchese family. So we go in the bathroom. I say, what's up, Vic? He tells me, he says, Larry, is it true? I says, what are you talking about? He says, Greg, is he a rat? I started going after him. That's why those 2 were in there. They said, no, Larry, just hear him out. They were hearing it from lawyers. They were hearing it from people. And I'm fucking fighting it, excuse me. I'm fighting it tooth and nail. I don't want to hear it. I said, you can't tell. That's not good for me either. On a selfish note, but. So I walk away. My bed was right next to his. I took my mattress. I went to the other side. Okay, and there was all Italians here. The other side was mixed, whatever. I would rather be there right now from what I just heard from his mouth. Okay, this is how arrogant I am about it at the time. The very next day, it comes out in the paper that Greg went in front of the judge, okay, and he was pleading to be released. He says, you know how much I did for your government all these years? So he admitted it openly. So the next day I get called back into the bathroom. Vic's got the newspaper. So I looked at it, and they're asking me, did you know? I just shook my head. I threw the paper down. I was distraught. I walked back to my corner. Funny thing is, I get pulled out of there, and I get put back on the floor with Alley Boy and some of my co-defendants. They were all on the same indictment. So now we're talking about this, and Bobby, and guys can't believe it, and Alley Boy has to be the hero, and he tells me that. But I'm going to tell you a story now. He said 20 years. The paper said 30. So in my eyes, there was an event. I'll never forgot it, and I found out later on. There had to be something that happened 20 years ago. Because if he's a rat for 30 years and you know something significant happened. Later on, I find out from an attorney, there's a big, big tax case, okay? The timing is right. It's in the 70s. It just works out right. 8 heavyweights from the Colombo family, including Junior Persico, his brother, Greg Scarpa, one of the Fuscos, some of the Russos, all the top names in the family. And it's a big, they're going to face 15 to 20 on this IRS charge. They all show up in court. They get the hearing put off. All 8 of them are there. They say, okay, come back, and maybe there's no violence, so back then they had bail, whatever. You can't get bail anymore if you're a mob guy. So they come back maybe 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, whatever they put it off to. They all come in except Greg. Okay. They put it off again. Another 4 to 6 weeks goes by. They all come back to the hearing except Greg. This is the 3rd hearing. The 4th one gets put back again. They all come in except Greg. At that hearing, the judge throws out the case. Just throws out the case. So, something had to happen there. So now either they turn...
Persico's going to know there's something going on.
There's something. Now,
he's not a naive guy.
This is what I'm leading to, right. He either decided that, listen, he didn't hurt us. If he had a little connection, maybe he didn't really know how tight it was with him and his connection. Maybe he didn't know it went both ways. Maybe he tried to convince somebody that... But now here's what happens. He becomes... He's a huge earner, too. He's a tremendous earner, okay? So they don't want to throw that away. But also, any precarious hit that had to be done, they came to Greg. Not the one where you get your best friend or somebody that's...
Who? Who came to Greg?
The Persicos, through Scarpa.
Yeah.
I remember Scarpa coming in with different hits that had to be made, and they weren't easy hits.
At
okay?
what level of hitman is he in the Italian?
Here's the thing: we're not hitmen.
Right.
I mean, these people call me the hitman. To me, a hitman does it for money. We didn't do it for money. We did it because it was part of the life. If somebody broke a rule, you had to pay. Sometimes with your life. Indirectly, you're going to rise in the family and become a captain and make more money.
Maybe who's most feared? Like, was Scarpa in that level of fear? Or
he was the most feared man in Brooklyn, probably further. And I've described him as probably being the most feared guy since Al Capone. I've had guys come in that club, okay, that are known for chopping up bodies and all of this, and they were very, very soft-spoken with Greg. Never arrogant, never... As a matter of fact, one of them, he's dead now, so it doesn't matter. Roy DeMeo. He's the one that chopped.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody,
I was just going to bring him up. I wrote his name down.
I remember Greg, when we had a discussion about that, Greg got squeezed, cut up a body. Why did, no, he'd rather leave him in the street and let them see what, a guy got killed. That was it. He'd kill you and that's it. He'll walk out, and go have dessert. These guys had to chop you up, get all the blood out, get rid of all the evidence and this stuff. That didn't make them any more brazen. Greg would walk into a crowded restaurant and shoot 2 people and walk out. No mask. He'd grow a mustache. They got these pictures of him like that's what he had. He grew the mustache as a disguise. He says the first thing, I'll never forget him telling me, the first thing they'll say, a guy came in with a mustache. So they'll be looking for a guy with a mustache forever, So Roy comes in because Gregory and I roughed the guy up that was around him. Loosely. He owed me money gambling. We went a few times, and we didn't hurt him bad. Put him against the wall, and actually Gregory did most of the talking because he was a little older than me and more convincing. And very soon after, Roy came to the club. He comes in the back, and I had to sit there because I knew the details of the debt. I'll never forget, Greg, when Roy was asking, you know, for can we pay this off or something like that, Greg looked at him and says, Roy, the streets are ours. And Roy says, no, I'm not here to dispute that. No, he says, no, Roy, ours, meaning wise guys. We'll take care of it. You know, we'll take care. We don't need you to make a deal for us. That's what he's leading to. We'll collect the money ourselves. He said, no, I'll pay it. He paid the money for the guy and got him off the hook. He was there to try to work out a deal. And when Greg said the streets were ours, I'd never forget it. He was like, okay, yeah, Greg, whatever you say. Now, not everybody would do that either, you know. I saw Greg when I had a beef with Paul Castellano's nephew, okay? He was ready to, he told Paul, if a hair is harmed on his head, I'll never forget those words, you'll see more bodies in the street. Scappy had to stop Greg from talking because he was going into a very bad area. You know, you can't talk to a boss that way, but this was Greg, you know? Nobody was ever going to hurt anybody around us, touch us. Even if we were told not to do something, Greg was the type, we're going to get this guy. We might have waited 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. We're going to get him, and it'll be off the record.
What was his personality? Was he, I mean, I've seen his interviews, how he speaks. He's got the nice voice.
Yeah.
Was he the charming guy that he's talking and he's kind of confusing you a little bit, and then he takes you out? Was he to the point guy? Was he the charismatic guy? Was he the fear? What was his approach?
Greg was very, very charming and sophisticated. He could talk with anybody.
I guess what I'm asking you is like, you've seen him, right? You know how sometimes the best way to know her to ask you, the best way to know, you know, about you is ask her, and she'll say, well, he's like this, and because she's been watching her the most, you've been watching her the most. You watch Scarpa a lot, right?
Yeah.
What tale gave it to you where you said, this guy's about to kill him? Was there anything that you said, that's his system, he's about to go to a point or take a guy out? What was that tale?
Well, there's one thing that we had between us, and I learned it with him, literally the handkerchief. When the hanky came out of his pocket and he went make like he was going to sneeze, I knew the guy was in trouble. Because when the hanky went back in, a gun was coming out. Or the hanky meant when he put it back in, he was getting hit, and we had to be ready, you know.
He was getting hit.
He's going to hit the guy, and then we're going to finish him off. You know, give him a beating. But no, see, Greg, he could be two different people. Okay, like I said, I have to explain it this way. On 13th Avenue, when he was walking the streets, or somebody came in to see him, all business, no joking around, steel, ice in his veins. And he could just look at you, and you're convinced that he means business, you know. On the other hand, I can drive around with him once in a while, and well, it's just the two of us in the car, and I can say, "Get the fuck out of here, you're an asshole," you know, and he would laugh. That's stupid. Are you kidding me? You know. But that took years to develop.
That's only around two people, though. You can't talk like that with other people.
Later on, Jimmy caught up to that, where Jimmy, because of what we did during the war, got to that same level where maybe not quite as much, but where Jimmy could make a joke, you know, say, oh yeah, that's smart, let's do that, you know, and then we'd all bust out laughing. But of course, never in front of others. He trusted the loyalty during the war between me, Jimmy, and Greg was just, you can't even explain it. You can't explain it. The closeness, and you know, we knew we had each other's back for our lives. So,
what's the ugliest hit you saw? I know you saw the one guy that came in, he called him a rat, took him out.
Well, that's one of them. That's probably right up there because it was right point blank, and you know, we weren't prepared for it really. You know, the ones during the war I won't really count because you know, I was part of them. So I would say the one really that I wasn't at, but I got the description, was the girl that got killed, Mary. You know, that was Big Allie's girlfriend. Just the thought of that, I still cringe. I mean, it's a horrible thing to think about. But I remember him telling me after that. He says, you know...
Vividly, like details?
Yes. And he told me, what he also told me was, I didn't ask you to be on this one, you know that. And on the side, I'm saying, thank you. I said, yeah, I noticed. And he says, I know who's got the stomach for this and who doesn't. There were other notable guys that weren't there either, you know. So... Who was there?
Do you know who was there or no? Like
I know who was. Well, he was there.
Okay.
Carmine Sessa, who wound up being the consigliere later on. Greg Jr. Think there was a fourth. I'm not sure, to be honest. But the ones like that weren't guys that weren't on things like that. well, myself, Bobby Zam, I remember him telling me Bobby loves people too much. He also became a captain, you know. So I said, anybody under Greg was good fellow material, possibly captain, but you can't get to
What was the reason for Mary?
Well, they claimed that Mary spoke to the FBI. He was on the lam with her for years, and he didn't want to leave where he was. He was safe, and he felt that she was talked to the FBI, and she may tell them where he is. So they claimed she was a rat, the big word they want to use all the time. But there's no proof of that either. You know, it was just in case.
And when he went away, when word came out that he's been dealing with the FBI for 30 years, was that a byproduct? Who got in trouble for that? Like, who did he take down? Because while he's doing this, he's still taking people out. So FBI knows, you know, he's doing what he's doing.
Well, the ones that really had the biggest kickback was them at the end of the day. The FBI and some prosecutors and maybe even higher than that for allowing this, for allowing a guy like this to exist and give him carte blanche where he can, you know, be a prolific killer, not even a couple of hits here and there. I mean, just, you know, the go-to guy in the family for years and years and years, numbers that are unheard of. And so, no, but everybody, well, me and Jimmy got thrown under the bus, okay? And his son. Because, yeah, even Greg Jr., on the indictment that he went away for, okay? Every lawyer and every person that knows anything about the case wants to know why Greg Sr. wasn't the boss of that indictment.
When is Scarpa's birthday? Just curious. Do you
May 11th or May 8th, because him and Johnny Sapp.
May 8th, yeah, good for you.
Okay, yeah,
May 8th,
yeah.
Good
May 8th.
memory.
Yeah. And my father's May 11th, and Johnny Sapp is May 11th. That's why I knew there was a bunch of them at the same time. I'm February 21st.
February 21st.
61. So 61, and I'll be 61.
That's cool.
So yeah,
you only get to do that once.
That's right.
61,
that's right.
61.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I have to bet that number. Legally, of course.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
that's right.
So yes,
that's right.
Yes,
Please
yes,
do so.
I'll,
We don't want you to get in trouble. Yeah.
No. So yes.
Even though the odds you guys did was better than the odds they're doing now.
Yes,
right?
that's exactly what I. Yeah,
yes.
that's funny you brought that up because I had the people who betting horses. I said OTB takes 20%. We won't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
we'll
so
give you a higher
yeah.
So now this whole thing's going on. You go away 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
During this process, when you're going away, and you're cooperating, are you cooperating to say what? Though?
Here's what happened. Here's what happened. I was fighting and fighting and fighting. My lawyers came to me several times, and I had no interest in going that route. Again, not being a hero, I just really didn't. I says, I'm 30, if I can swing, I saw guys getting 10, 12. They kept saying, you're not getting that. They're going to start around 20 with you. So I said, well, fight it down to 15 or 16. I says, you know, I'll get out in my 40s. But when it came out about him, and I got those questions, and the next day I found out from Allie they all knew, now I started saying, what am I standing up for? You know, I was ready to take 20 years or whatever, you know, because I did take the oath at the end, regardless. Some people don't want to believe that for some reason. I don't really care. But even without that, I didn't even need that. You know, I would have preferred to take a reasonable sentence. I knew I did some wrong things and have a choice to move on when I get out or whatever. So I didn't have that. I didn't feel that anymore. I says, now I got to worry about my kid. I have a year-old son. So I called my lawyer, and the problem was I had nothing to give them. Greg gave him everything. Carmine gave him. They knew everything. They knew everything. And it's something that's funny. I'm going to tell you. Greg had told me years earlier that the day a guy gets straightened out, the very next day the feds know. I never forgot that. But it came back to me during the conversation. My lawyers are telling me they even know you're a little higher up. He must have told his connection that Jimmy and Larry came in last night or 2 nights ago, whatever it was. So that's on record. That's a documented thing. I don't even, you know, whatever. All along, I was trying to fight that because that enhances your sentence. Oh, no, I was a nobody. I was a bookmaker, you know. But he told me that. He says, so what you can give them, they told me, what do you know about the corruption? So I wound up knowing a lot more than I thought I knew. And my manager over here, my wife, has told me, she lived this part with me and said, there's got to be something you know in your head that you don't even realize you know. Because they were coming years and years and just kept coming back and back. But I had a secret frequency code. Not me, Greg had it, okay? So we were listening to the FBI do surveillance on us and our enemies. We had, nobody's gonna, you can't pick 5 numbers out of your head or 7 numbers, whatever it was, and land on the FBI secret code. We had it, okay. We had, he called, we had these old phones. Remember the old days, the big phones?
Of course.
Okay, before
Bricks.
cell phones. We used to call, he used to call somebody. I had those phone records because it was my sister's phone that I took for her. She didn't know what was going on. But I said, I need the phone, you know. And we would use the phone during the day and bring it back to her at night. So they had the phone records, okay? We had FBI badges and ID cards, not filled out with pictures and everything, but at our disposal. So all of these things started leading them to the FBI, not a cop. Then a couple of the FBI agents put some pieces together. This was one big one. One of the not the supervisor, who was Greg's guy, I'm not mentioning his name only because people know who it is, and he did walk out. He didn't get convicted. So he's the supervisor. One of his agents brings in an address for us, brings in an address for Vic Arena's hiding place. One day, Greg has this address. Now, we can't ask too many questions. You know, where'd you get that? He says, my girlfriend. That's what he always told us. He had Vic Arena's address where he's hiding out. We go. It's an empty lot. It was the wrong address. Okay. The FBI agent gets this wrong address, hands it to his supervisor. The only other person to get that same exact wrong address is Greg Scarpa. So there's the connection. So all this stuff, you know, I gave them led to other things too, and there's a whole bunch more. There's, I mean, a bunch of stuff. You know, times I took him to Mount Sinai Hospital to meet, and I knew they were agents or detectives because he would go in, and there's a little square in the room. I would watch him because I was concerned. You know, I don't know if he's meeting other wise guys that are looking at, you know, and he would sit down, and I could just see. And the way to, you know, you could tell. So I said, there's something, well, that's when me and Jimmy started getting worried. This is really tail end of the war, too. Like, you know. So he was a magician, really. He had everybody fooled, and even that's what Greg Jr. told me.
Were you assigned on the Nicky Black? Were you on that?
Yeah.
So you were on that.
That was you know, that was my hit, and it was personal. Nicky Black was a heavyweight on the arena side. He would have never been a big heavyweight, respected with Persico. But when he became a good fella, it was with the stipulation he would never rise above Soldier. Okay, Junior didn't want him because he bypassed other guys that should have gotten it. The reason is he was heavy in the Teamsters and money. Big money. So they protected him early on. They made him a good fella. So he was never going to rise. So he chose Vic Arena's side. As the war's going on, they're not getting any of us. Unfortunately, most of our guys were hiding. So I don't mean Greg's crew. There was a media crew, and then there was me, him, and Jimmy. We're out in the front lines every day. And Nicky made a comment to my Uncle Albert, who I mentioned before, who was under him, that tell your nephew Butchie, that was my nickname from a kid, if he doesn't come over to our side, I'm going to kill him.
Who's saying this?
Nicky Black. Now he's telling my Uncle Albert, my godfather, my mom is the sister. That's blood. I mean, that's tight. You're telling him that. And my uncle has done more work than Nicky. May he rest in peace, my uncle.
Albert's done more work than Nicky, your uncle.
By far, yeah. He was very well respected.
Did you know that? Did you know that as a kid?
I learned more and more.
Okay.
I didn't early on, but even Greg told me, your uncle was with Sally D on this one. He was with Sally D. Sally D'Ambrosio was a big name back then, too. Him, Sally, and Junior Persico did a lot of damage in the early years. Okay. And they went through wars together, too. So, anyway, Where were we with this?
Nicky Black. So
Nicky Black, yeah.
he tells if he doesn't come join us, I'm going to whack him.
I'm going to kill him. So now Carmine Sessa calls us, beeps us. We had these beepers back in the day, and we had codes, and that's Carmine, let's meet him at Nathan's. The code told us that. So we would go meet him, and he told us the same thing that, he's the first one to tell us that, okay? That he heard has a guy in the club, and Nicky's gunning for you. His thing it is, if he gets me and Jimmy, or me or Jimmy, we crack. And there's nobody out there doing anything other than us, and, that would leave Greg with nobody. And they'd win the war. So they were also casing Jimmy's tuxedo place, some of Nicky's boys. So that's much is true. But that night I go to my Uncle Albert's house, and I says, we heard this. He says, it's true. He says, be careful. He says, but I'll never forget this. He looked at me and says, but Butchie, blood is thicker than water. In other words, I didn't have nothing to worry about with him. He says, but it is true. Be careful. So I said, okay, thank you. We left. I think it was the next day, but maybe 2 days. Me and Jimmy differ on this when we talk about it once in a while. I could have sworn it was the very next day, but maybe the next day we didn't come into Brooklyn. The next time we came into Brooklyn, we go back to our spot. We got 2 clubs we can watch, Nicky's, Funzi's, and a couple of other businesses that we know they come in and out of. I got the binoculars, and we're about a half a block, 3/4 of a block away. And I see the Toyota pull up. And I says, there's Nicky Black. I'll never forget it. And Greg says, where? Let's get him. And I think I put in the book because it's, in hindsight, it was like, we found our lost dog. There it is. It was like, there he is. We're going to go kill him. And it was just so normal. It's unbelievable. So we start rolling down the block, and he pulls out, makes a whole 4-way turn. He's coming back the other way. We're behind him. And Jimmy's sizing it up. We have a fake siren in the window, some coffee cups. We wanted to look like the binoculars are sitting up there, so it looks like we're law. And to this day, I believe that's what he thought. Because during a war, how can you let a car pull up alongside you without even looking? And he was like sort of stiff, like he was telling his they're pulling up now, they're going to pinch us, something like that, It had to be. We pull up. I'm in the back seat. Greg is in the front seat. Now, Greg at this point was getting a little slow between the AIDS and dementia and stuff. He wasn't 100%. He had a one gun on the previous attempt with Joe Waverly. It jammed up, and then it was ridiculous. That was an embarrassment, that one. So he gets the rifle out. He hits the wrong clip, but I'm also with a shotgun coming out the back window. And all I hear is his bullets falling out. He hit the wrong clip, so the bullets came out, and he didn't hit the lock thing. So I leaned over, and I mean, he never looked. I was really, literally a few inches from what Greg told me to trademark, his trademark behind the ear. So it entered here, came out his face. I mean, it was, that's probably the most horrendous hit of all that I was ever around. But driving away, I've said this, I said, I'm not proud of anything I did. Any of the hits earlier, during the war. The war was self-preservation. This was self-defense, to me. He's a capable guy. He's targeting me, number one. What am I going to do, run away? Most people would say, yeah, just leave. But being with Greg and being in the life, and I couldn't. So he, that one, to this day, I say he should have just behaved himself, kept his mouth shut, or came and did it. You alerted me, and then what did you expect?
That's wild, because even Nicky Black, when you talk Nicky Black, there's, he has a reputation. Nicky Black was still Nicky Black. So
yeah, no doubt.
Did you have any run-in with Sammy, with Michael, with any of those guys, or no? Did you have anything to do with them?
Well, no, the only thing with Sammy was during the war, we knew that, because we had people that were siding with us, even around John Gotti, even though he was with Vic, or siding with Vic, that Vic went to John to help with getting Greg. First of all, that's an embarrassment for Vic to do that. Go outside the family for help? You should be ashamed of yourself. You're the boss. That's the first thing. Then John tells Sammy to do it. We heard all this. We knew this. So now, little by little, we're seeing guys from Sammy stop in to see us in the pool room. While they're in there, we got 4 guys at the front table with guns and shotguns. If they would have even made any kind of move, they would have never walked out of there. We knew. We knew that they were asked to do this. But It never came through. But I had this conversation with Sammy about this, maybe a year ago. And I said, you should think about this. You're his underboss. Okay, you're his number one guy, his best guy, the most trusted guy. He's going to send you into the lion's den to kill a guy like Greg during the war, with all his men around armed. Why was he putting you in that position? Think about that. That's the treachery. He might have wanted to get him out of the picture. Because that's when they started having their rumblings about the money and killing everybody. Who knows? But you don't do that. That's and he agreed with me. We had that discussion. He says, you never know. I haven't thought about that.
And how did you guys view Sammy at the time? Sammy was always, me growing up as a kid, I knew he was a powerhouse. Big guy. And it happened fast. He was part of the Colombo family. I got to say that. And the story I got was he was, in a nice way, asked to leave. Okay? It's not like he wanted to go somewhere else. There was some kind of thing. And the actual word I heard from Greg was he was chased. He was told, leave. Okay? Somehow or another, he latched on. And I'm sure he has his version, whatever it is. Maybe he knows more. I don't know. But that's what I knew. So he goes and latches on with the Gambinos. Eventually gets straightened out. Before you know it, he's a captain. And then all the stuff happened with Castellano, and he moved up, and he took the world over, But listen, back then I liked him. I mean, it's not that I dislike him now, but, we're going in different directions, Did you have run-ins with him or no? You guys
Back then?
Back then?
No.
Okay.
No, not really.
Neither would Michael either, because it was...
No, Michael I never even met. Okay. I met his father once. On one of the small stretches he was out, he came to say hello to Greg, or maybe it was even on 11th Avenue. I don't know.
What happened with Greg, the AIDS story? I mean, if you don't mind sharing that, story, what happened there?
Well, Greg used to take Anisons. 3 every night when we're finished at the club. He would go in his pocket, take 3 Anisons like that. He wouldn't even drink milk, anything with them. Just take them like that. He did this every day for years and years and years. And I used to ask him why. I said, you got a headache? He says, no, but I don't want to get one. And I'm going to have a few drinks tonight. So anyway, ultimately that, after many, many years of this, it caused ulcers. Yep. I couldn't think of the word. Ulcers in his stomach. And one day they start bleeding, and he's bleeding badly through the behind and stuff. They bring him to the hospital, and he's losing so much blood that they needed to give him a transfusion. Or blood, is that what it's called? A transfusion? Mm-hmm. Okay. So he tells them that he doesn't want the hospital's blood because of the AIDS. It was starting to become a problem.
This is what year?
86.
Yeah, prime time.
Prime time.
Yeah.
So he demands that one of his own men. So we all come in, 30 of us, men, women, one match, and it's Paulie Melly. Big weightlifter, okay? And this was known as a gay thing back then, and I know you got to be careful of the things you say today, but back then that's what it was known as, okay? And Paulie was not. Paulie had more girls, and I mean, he was a man's man, but he was a weightlifter, and they shared needles. And that's how he got it and died later on, okay? But that was the one match. So he got Paulie's blood.
Wow.
Now, when I say it, I got to say this. I don't know if it was divine intervention, time to pay the piper, or just dumb luck. I mean, but the one person out of 30 that matched had the virus. And he wound up getting that. Now, because of all the money he had, much like Magic Johnson, he was able to take all the drugs that they had, all some of the drugs weren't even proven yet, but he said, I'll take them. Let me try. All doctors all over Manhattan, I'd be taking them. He'd be getting white blood cells put in. This went on for years and years and years, even through the war. So, but, it was, like I said, I was sad when I heard it, but then we lived with it, for, probably 4 years, and then a couple of years in the can or whatever around then, and then while I was gone and doing my time, I heard he passed.
Yeah, and what was the story that were saying that he used AIDS as an alibi, that, hey, it's because of AIDS?
Well, he could have. I didn't hear that, believe it or not. I don't remember hearing that he used that as an excuse. But, going back to how he sold us out, because at the end, he took a deathbed confession, okay? And he exonerated Alley Boy. And Alley Boy walked out a free man, but then got in trouble again for killing Wild Bill and back doing life again. But he could have very easily added Jimmy, myself, and his son. Because that's how I started with this, that Greg Jr. should have never been the head of that last indictment. Greg Sr. should have. How did he not, wasn't listed as the boss? So Greg got the kingpin, which instead of getting 7 or 8 years with drugs at the time, he got 20 plus. And then got hit with more charges later on. But he was never on, he should have been the head of that indictment, you know? So anyway, why not say that? Why not say Larry and Jimmy weren't on these hits? Nobody knew. Nobody was there with us. And say that they dropped me off sometimes places. I couldn't tell them where I was going because I was involved in this war. And I went and I killed some guys and then they picked me up later. You know, he could have said something to... And obviously deathbed confessions, which I didn't know, carry a lot of weight because Ali Boy beat his case based on that. And some of his family members, again, tried to tell me later on, not Greg Jr., because he's pretty much on my wavelength, you know, very hard to forgive and forget. You want to, but you can't. So we talk about the good times, but we say, yeah, but he had us all fooled. Look what he did to all of us, you know. But one of his daughters told me that he was so drugged up at the end that he didn't even, he just signed whatever they asked him to sign. But also now on the other side of that, I saw paperwork. I saw paperwork that during the war, when he got caught with Jimmy throwing a gun out the car door, it came back to the local police, that was the feds, came back to the local police that it was Larry and Jimmy in the car. So he was selling me out right there. Not a gun charge. I would have took it from him in a heartbeat, you know? But you do that just behind, you know, that's, you know, I don't know if I could do that to somebody. Now, later on, I see an FBI forensic person show me paperwork that the FBI themselves were told that me and Jimmy, they knew there was an informant now. They knew there was an informant. Now, the head guy knew, obviously, who was handling him. None of the underling guys knew who it was. They were told it's Larry and Jimmy. Now, imagine somebody else in the family has a connection to the feds. They'd kill us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So even though he might have been whatever, there was a lot of things he did that, I mean, you know, I can't even understand why. I don't understand it, you know. Just keep your mouth shut. So that's why, you know, at the end of the day, where I am now, I got no problem looking in the mirror. You know, I was dealt a hand and I played it, you know.
Larry, when you got out, what year was it when you were done with your time, when you did your time?
2002, right? Yeah, 2000.
What made you not get back? What, I mean...
Well, a combination of things. Even though I don't consider myself an exposer of things, I didn't like point fingers and this guy did this guy did that. I broke a rule. I dealt with the government. I sat there, I came clean. I told them what I knew about the corruption, about the hits I did, you know. So they're not, you know, I can't go back for that reason, number one. Okay. Number two, I see the light. There's no life there anymore. And I try to get messages to some younger guys that were under us that is still there. I say things. I'm on YouTube a lot and stuff.
Today.
I put things out there. I says, when are you going to see the light? You did 8 years. Now you got 10, and you get out.
Why is it hard to leave it? Because the amount of people I've interviewed, and I asked about the glamour of, like, I asked Leonetti, he says, dude, we didn't have as good of a time as you think we did, right? Then I asked, Michael says, no, we did have parties. When I asked Sammy, not really. Sammy was more to work. When I asked Collada, you know.
Well, it's different. So, we were all about the business. We were all about making money.
Did you have fun? Were you having the cars, the girls, the party and all that?
Yes, I did, because I was making an awful lot of money for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You know, that's still young. You know, right through up until I got pinched.
While you're with Linda, you're having a blast with, you are living the big life, going to the clubs.
Oh, yeah. So I had the caddies, going to nightclubs, being treated like a mini boss.
What's the most money you made during that time, from 78 to 86?
Well, I'll tell you this. When I left $700,000 when I went to prison. That's what I lost to them. $700,000.
In 86?
No, I went away in 92. So, but up until about 89, 90. Yeah. And that's between Shylock money.
$700,000 not what you're making, what you had in cash that you left, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so we were making, but you know, I also overspent. Not overspent, but like you make. A week we made, you know, let's say a sports business made $60,000. You know, I would always throw Greg something and Greg Jr. Okay, at the beginning, I used to give them a cut, but then I saw when we lost, I didn't get any help. So I said, okay, they get less, because it was mine now, So let's say I gave them 10, there's 50. Jimmy got in there a good, more and more as years went on. He became a partner. But I had other people that worked with me, and I never treated them like workers. I treated them like partners.
Yeah.
So they might not get an equal, but, So at the end of the day, if I had 15 or 20 for myself, I'd go spend 5, 6, 7,000 on a weekend like it was nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it hard to leave the life?
I'll tell you why it's hard. And this may not be nice to some people. Some of them can't survive or find another way to earn a living. Okay? And a lot of times on these different things I do, I'll sum it up like this. If, I get like Michael, I believe he's truly religious now and wants to leave a better legacy behind. And some other guys like that too. I don't feel comfortable doing that. But I'll say this, you don't need that life to earn a good living or to get respect. And a lot of these guys in it, that's the only way they're going to get respect, and it's the only way they can earn a living. That's why they're still selling drugs and doing these stupid street things. Okay? I moved on. When I came home, I started working in a gym. Then I had worked in 3 gyms. I started developing clients. But I already had the thing in my head, once my 3 years is up, okay, I'm going to find a place of my own, which I did. And it kept growing and growing and growing. I have a successful gym. Met my wife, Kelly. She started when she retired. She was a vice president in a very big government contracting company. When she retired, she wanted to do something that less stressful, something fun. So she liked promoting weddings. She got into that, opened the florist as the base. Before you know it, we added a wine bar to the florist. Think about the atmosphere. Flowers all around, couples, ladies would come in a lot. We brought in a little bit of music. We were mobbed. We had to get a bigger place. It turned out to be a supper club. Now, it got so busy every night that we were getting home 3 in the morning. I couldn't go to the gym anymore. I still haven't lost all the weight back. I'm supposed to be a middleweight, about 180. I'm still up 190, which I hate. But, I did put on a little muscle, so that's not too bad. But we sold that, and now I'm back at the gym full time. My son's coming in as a trainer. I got 5 or 6 other trainers there, and I'm very good to the trainers, so they don't go anywhere, and they promote me to other trainers. I had 3 kickboxing classes. I had a young kid, intermediate, and adults, and I was full. Sometimes they were standing room only, some cardio classes, and I just worked and worked and worked. And, through the whole time, I had the book, so I promoted the book. I never got a publisher to do it, and I did the math myself. I said, they're going to give me $30,000 or something. Okay, and I'm going to be begging them for more for the next 10 years until they finish fudging their numbers.
You would.
Of course, of course. I didn't even need a writer to do it, because I got an A in writing in college. I wrote that whole book myself.
Get out of here.
Every bit of it is my own.
That's impressive.
The only part I didn't write was the opening prologue where I wanted somebody that knows me, and it's an ex-cop.
Asante? No.
Armand is a hell of a guy. He wrote a thing on the back. No, this was an ex-cop that was on my case. So he described me, what he thought of me, and about how I came back, and whatever. It was very nice, but the rest is mine. And so I didn't have a writer. I don't have an agent. Now I do. I don't have a publisher. So I don't have to sell as many. But I'm selling a nice amount, thank God. And after the show, I'm sure I'm going to sell some more. Because I'm going to tell them my website if it's okay.
No, we're going to put the link below. We're going to put the link below to the website of the book.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But and when I got to fast forward, it's a perfect segue into De Niro. Well, he read the book because the same cop is now one of his security guards. And he said the book was terrific. He asked the guys if they knew anybody that would come and help them while they're doing The Irishman, where he's got a lot of questions. They said me, which is a double-edged sword. It's a compliment, but then again, the things I got to talk to him about aren't, that's, stuff that I'm not proud of. So anyway, I'm his consultant. I get a little part playing a hitman in the movie. I wound up playing another part, Joey Blasco, right? Joe Blasco, who was a corrupt ex-cop working for Joe Pesci's character in Casino, okay, out in Vegas. And he was suspect in a murder. That was a good little part I had. And coming up...
You were in Casino?
No, not Casino.
But the story of...
It was a TV show called The Perfect Murder.
I got you.
And I played the corrupt cop that that they made you think he killed him. And at the end of the day, nobody still knows who killed him.
Who? Pesci in Casino. So I had Oscar Goodman on before, who's from Casino. Pesci was playing whom?
Tony Spilotro. From
And Collada was the hitman on the Vice that he did what he did with him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So all of this has led me now to being, there's a new network coming out, okay? There's a soft opening coming in October. The grand opening will be Al Capone's birthday, early January. I will be hosting a TV talk show, and it's called Mob TV, is the name of the network. It's on the infamous TV and then Mob TV 24/7. And we may name it The Life. And I'll have people on, much like we're doing today. Hopefully I'm as good as you as a on the other side of the table. And we also have other projects in development like Mobsters versus Monsters. 4 ex-mob guys that truly believe and go looking for the paranormal, like Bigfoot and things like that. But it's serious and it's funny. It's a good little mix. It's sort of reality.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, so there's that. We have a couple of other people that are going to come on the show when I do it that have, some podcasts in the works and different things like that. So I'm in a whole different direction now. I'm part-time at my gym and I'm doing this stuff more. I got to do a reading this week sometime for there's a word he used, but I guess certain marketing things, commercials and stuff for Mob TV, they want me to do the talking as the actor part. So what are we going to go pay Michael Madsen or Armand Asante? You could do it. So anyway, so there's so much happening that, I
got a question for you, Larry. So
please.
Why are so many mobsters great storytellers? What is that all about?
Wow.
Like, do you guys go to... Before you become made, they send you to this low-key, CIA, FBI, 17 keys to being a great storyteller. Like, there's such a unique ability to tell stories.
You know what I think it is? Maybe that's the little DNA thing that brings us all together at some point where, everybody thinks it's this, we're vicious killers, or we're this, they're all the same. Maybe it's that we have this other side to us, where we're a little wiser than people think.
Well, it's not maybe.
Yeah,
there's not a maybe to it. But the wise.
Yeah, people think like I guess somebody said it's not that glamorous. It's not all easy. It's not. It's a lot of hard work. All those rackets took a lot of work, a lot of dedication. You had to be forceful sometimes, but that's a great question because there are a bunch of us out there now, isn't there?
Yeah, I wonder what is this?
Yeah.
Like you guys could do a clinic, a master class on storytelling, and they just
everybody. Do you have an answer to that?
Yeah.
Is it?
Have you noticed this? Like I've been there. Like you sit there, you tell the stories. One time I'm at P.F. Chang's in Santa Monica. Bad analogy, but I'm just giving it to you, and you'll see where this goes. And I used to go to the same P.F. Chang's, and I would always sit all the way to the right at Santa Monica, and I would go. Right after I went to the stairs in Santa Monica, I would go to Matador Beach and I'd come here, I'd have my 7 Arnold Palmers, I would read my book and do my plan for the week and go back home. This was routine every Sunday, right? One day, my bartender, the waiter, he's reading a book. I said, what book are you reading? He says, well, I'm really trying to get better with women. I'm really struggling with that. I said, okay, great. I mean, what book are you reading? He says, The Wisdom of a Prostitute.
What?
So he's reading this book. I'm like, what a title of a book. What's the wisdom of a prostitute? He says, well, this prostitute is telling the story of her experience with 2,000 men. And she's saying the weakness, the insecurities of all these men. And I have so many insecurities as a man. And so she's sharing with me that 90% of men have similar insecurities. And it's making me get this confidence, right? So I said, what better person to learn about men's insecurities than a prostitute, because she's been with, she has that wisdom. I mean, it is a wise woman in a different...
That's not Psych 101.
No,
that's
that's
later on.
So at first, when he tells me this story, I'm like, that's a pretty strange thing to be reading yourself, right? But the way he's explaining the story, I said, okay, maybe this makes sense, okay? But you know, maybe the reason why you guys are so good at telling stories is because how many times do you have to go to a sit down where, you know, you have to measure the words you use and you have to be careful with the words. So you get it's almost like every one of the mobsters pacing on how you speak is the same speed. You guys are not fast talkers. It's really, you know, and it's just like musical the way you go with the pacing.
You know what else I think it is now that you said that, and I mean this. There are a lot of unique stories. Everybody has a little play, a little spin on their story, okay? And they start telling it so much, it becomes second nature. You know, what I like about us today, and we didn't go totally chronological. I didn't start, I was a kid, which I did, but then we sort of bounced. And I like that better. I think it leads, that's why when you do watch the Mob Museum show, I started at where I am now and went back, you know? Because if I say it over and over, and then, God forbid, I say there were 5 of us there, somebody will call me up and say, oh, the other podcast, you said 4. You know, you're like under a microscope. You know,
there's no, it's technical.
And then you find haters. You find haters out there. I mean, I'm so lucky I got so few. Some of them, unfortunately, are all friends that you don't understand. You can't understand it. Is it envy because I'm moving on, or
these friends are still in the life, or they haven't left the life?
No, the ones that are still in the life love me.
Got it.
I talked to a bunch of them, and they love me. I was away with the boss of one of the families at the tail end of my sentence, and hated anybody talking negatively about me, stood behind me 100%, complained, wanted to kick the dirt and spit on the ground when Greg's name came up. He said he ruined so many good men, you know. But no, it's guys that are now out of the life, and they're lost. They don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
So they got to, you know, have something bad to say. But I have one old friend that wasn't even in the life. He was impersonating me on TikTok to try to pick up girls. This is true. And you know how I found out? One of the girls called me and told me his number. We reached him. And he just broke down on the phone crying. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, just ridiculous.
Why did it work, though? That's the question.
I don't think so.
It's effective.
I don't think so, because my cousin, Albie's son, called this kid up. And I'm not, to be mean, he's very overweight now. He's losing all his hair. And he's a little younger than me. And my cousin said, what were you thinking? He says, okay, so say you pull it off. They see a picture. He's putting pictures of me out. This is me. This is me. He says, when they're expecting Larry to get out of the car and you pull up, how are you going to explain that? He says, I don't know. I'm just losing my mind. I mean, it was just hysterical. I'm not even mad at the guy anymore. I mean, at first I was. I say, but, you know.
Well, you look Hollywood, man. You look like you belong in Hollywood. You got that look.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And it's been very interesting learning about your story. I accidentally got into interviewing folks from your life, and from the first one after Michael, it's just been, you know, one after another. And I know your story, it was popping up all over the place. The last year and a half, I kept saying Larry Mazza, Larry Mazza.
It is, like I said, it's unique. Yeah. It's true. I mean, every bit of it is true. I always say this. There could be things that other people live with me that remember differently. Like even Jimmy, I told you. Like I said it was the next day. He didn't get hit until the 3rd. You said it was the 2nd. You know, that's going to happen. Yeah. You know, I've said, well, don't you remember? And I use Jimmy a lot because I'll say, didn't we go to this meeting and there was like 15 of us there? He says, 15? The whole freaking family was there. It was like 50 guys. And maybe we're thinking of 2 different meetings, you know, but we had 120 meetings during the war, maybe more. 4 a day for 6 months. Everywhere we had to go. Traveled all over. It was a nightmare. That war was a nightmare. It was almost a relief.
Did you do anything with the Philadelphia guys or no?
No. I met a few while I was away, but not really. My thing was basically Brooklyn, Manhattan, New York. Yeah. So.
Well, we're going to put the link to the book below. Life, a Brooklyn Boy is Seduced into the Dark World of Mafia. Larry Mazza. Appreciate you for coming out.
Thank
really
you so
enjoyed
much.
talking to you.
I'll come back for part 2 if you want.
Yeah, once you do the other stuff, I look forward to that.
Yeah, that's
definitely.
a good idea. It's happening soon, so
looking forward to it. Anytime. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
What a great storyteller, right? Larry Mazza. Anyways, if you enjoyed this interview, we did a podcast as well with Michael Francis and Samuel Gravano on a different channel. If you've never seen that, probably one of the best conversations we ever had. Click here for Sammy, click here for Michael. If you enjoyed the interview, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.